Age, I'm your host, Trage, as we're coming back in here for hour number 2 of the show here tonight. I hope you guys are enjoying your Wednesday so far here. And hey, if you want to be involved in the show, I'd love to hear from you on the text in line. Hit me up, 715-990-4654. That is 715-990-4654. I'd love to hear your answer to the question of the day, and that is, who is your dream target for the Brewers at the trade deadline? I'd love to hear from you. 715-990-4654. So we're going to talk some Packers here in this next segment. This next segment is brought to you by Badger Tree Care. Got a tree that's become a problem? Call Trevor Barth at Badger Tree Care, your trusted insured tree service professional serving Clark and surrounding counties. Check them out there on Facebook, Badger Tree Care. I'm telling you, the before and after pictures, wow. Just wow. Check them out there for yourself, Badger Tree Care, and call them up there, Trevor Barth with Badger Tree Care. So, talking some Packers. Packers back on the practice field. Training camp is underway. I am just ready to get the sour taste out of my mouth. That was the wild card game last year against the Bears. The collapse in the fourth quarter. It lives rent-free in my head. I'll admit it. It lives rent-free in my head. Just remembering back, like I need Packer football. I need Packer football back. And as a fan, I just want it to be back so I can just forget about the last thing I saw, and that was Caleb Williams happy, the Packers going home, the cheese grater thing. I'm just over it. I am over it. I want to see the Packers back in the practice field. I want to see the regular season get underway, and I want to see the Packers take back the NFC North. That has got to be the expectation heading into this year. How do you take back the NFC North? There's a lot of questions I have heading into training camp, a lot of questions I have heading into the regular season, but the biggest answer I need to just have is winning the North. That's the answer. Winning the North. Winning the North. Winning is going to fix all these lists of Jordan Love not being in the top 10 of quarterback rankings. It's going to fix so much for me. That's all I know. So let's talk about the biggest questions I have heading into training camp. And I think one of the biggest ones, not because of the top 3 guys at this position, but the depth behind them. So the wide receiver room, I'm interested to watch this one, how it shakes out. We know the big 3, right? Where you have Christian Watson, Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed. Those are your primary guys. Those are your big-time guys. Dobbs leaves in the offseason there. Wicks was traded. The room was really full, and you had a lot of good talents in there. I liked Wicks. I liked Dobbs. I thought both those guys were really good talent. The room is kind of thinned out. You're highlighting your main guys now in Golden, Watson, and Reed. The depth behind them is where the biggest question marks for me are right now, because if one of those guys gets sidelined, who is the next guy up? Bo Melton, Savion Williams, Sky Moore? What's the answer? I have liked what I've heard out of Bo Melton. Savion Williams, I feel like, has a ton of upside. We've had crazy talks of him maybe moving into not a running back, but more of that kind of role where he's that Swiss Army knife on this roster, or on this offense at least. Sky Moore, the guy you brought in to be your kick return, punt return guy, your specialist out there, one of the best special teams guys out there. The depth of this room is a question. So I'm interested to see, the chemistry between Jordan Love and some of these guys. Like I said, all we've heard about Bo Melton heading into camp now, before camp, everything that we've heard from OTAs and that is that Bo Melton's look good. Now the question is, does that translate into the regular season here? Savion Williams, limited action. Sky Moore, 5 catches in 23 games the past 2 years. So not many guys, and then nobody else has caught a pass in the NFL of the rest of the roster. So I'm interested to see how that wide receiver room kind of plays out for the Packers here. The cornerback room also is the cornerback room. You think you have it figured out, but do you really? Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Valentine, those are going to be your top 2 guys heading in. But you also have the likes of Brandon Cisse now in that room. You also have Benjamin St-Juste. Yeah, like I said, Valentine, Nixon, Cisse, Benjamin St-Juste. And then you see some of these other guys, kind of Dominique Jackson also got drafted in this last offseason. So something to keep an eye on there is that cornerback room, how that kind of shakes out. The kicking room is something I'm watching with a close eye, because Trace Mack, they have all their faith in Trace Mack right now, which is exciting. And I think he's going to be fine. But we've heard a lot. There was some bad days, some good days. You're going to have that as a young kicker. So we'll see how that kind of works out. So I'm watching that kicking room real close. Pass rush, I would say that's a big one there. Pass rush with, Lucas Van Ness in there. No Micah Parsons to start out the year. So what does Lucas Van Ness bring? Is it going to be one of the young guys, Danny Dennis Sutton, Colin Oliver, Barron Sorrell? What are we going to see from the likes of those guys? And then the offensive line. I think the offensive line is going to be the biggest question mark. Running back, I think running back's going to figure itself out if the offensive line does. Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd, Chris Brooks is starting out, but you have Marshawn Lloyd, Josh Jacobs. I like that room. I feel like the problem with the run game right now is the lack of an offensive line and stability at the offensive line. The depth there I don't like. I like Jager Burton. I think he's going to be solid. He might factor in right off the bat. Maybe Aaron Banks. We never know. Injury-wise, he's been banged up. Maybe you see Jager Burton kind of fill into that guard role. Sean Ryan at center. That's your anchor. Zach Tom, right tackle. Anthony Belton figures in as a guard right now at the right guard. And then Jordan Morgan at left tackle. I don't hate it. Now you got to see Jordan Morgan take that next step. Anthony Belton to continue to ascend there. Sean Ryan at center. I like that they brought him back. I feel like a full offseason at center, getting him, getting his continuity there. The continuity is going to be the biggest thing across this offensive line. How they gel together and staying healthy and being able to stay consistent in there. After those guys is where I get a little bit worried. You got Darian Kennard, Donovan Jennings, Travis Glover, Barnhart's in there. That's where I get a little bit worried, is when you get after the main group of guys, is the depth of this offensive line. I feel like it's a big drop-off right now. Maybe some guys are going to surprise, but I feel like it's a big drop-off. And you don't have a backup plan. These guys, the guys you drafted, the guys you trust, Jordan Morgan, Anthony Belton, those are your guys, your dudes heading into this year. Can they take that next step? Jordan Morgan now being back at left tackle. Can he take that next step and be that guy for you? The offensive line is one of the storylines I'm watching heading into camp here. Who takes that step? Who can be that guy? Because when you give Jordan Love a clean pocket, when you don't let Josh Jacobs get hit behind the line on every single play. Now there's a couple factors that go into that, right? I think there's a lot of predictability from Matt LaFleur with his play calling. So that does not help the offensive line out. That doesn't help Josh Jacobs out. That doesn't help anybody out. So Matt LaFleur going back to the basics. Hopefully scheming some stuff up there, being a little unpredictable. Maybe that keeps Josh Jacobs clean. Maybe that helps out this offensive line, scheming up some unpredictable plays for once for Matt LaFleur. That's going to be huge. And also, like I said, keeping Jordan Love clean. I mean, he's one of the best quarterbacks when you keep him clean. So this offensive line is going to be they are, I believe, the key to success for the Packers here in 2026. The offensive line. Jordan Love, we talk about him a million times. Can he take that next step from being good to great? It's going to rely heavily on this offensive line. Josh Jacobs, the run game. To get that going, to open up the rest of the offense, is going to rely heavily on the offensive line. It all comes back to that offensive line. It all starts in the trenches. We've said it a million times. It all starts in the trenches. Offense, defense, all starts in the trenches. Defensively, I thought they did a good job filling up the trenches this last offseason here. I'm bringing in Javion Hargrave. Devontae Wyatt is like an awesome free agent signing that you're getting him back from injury, but it's like one of them great, signings there. Devontae Wyatt coming back. Chris McClellan, bringing him in. Like, I like the defensive line. I think they got a lot of beef up front there. The offensive line is where I'm a little bit worried. I feel like there's talent there, and I like the talent that they have. Can they take that next step? Jordan Morgan, Anthony Belton, can they take that next step? I believe they will. I'm optimistic, but heading into training camp here is where it starts. It's a revenge tour for the Green Bay Packers. I'm excited. I'm excited for the Packers. They're going to take back the North. I just got that feeling. I got that feeling right now with the way this roster is. I got that feeling. They're coming out. They're going to take back the North. Tucker Kraft back. Get Micah Parsons back here later on in the season. They built this roster. Goody went into the offseason. He attacked the offseason to fill the needs of this roster. I love it. I can't wait to watch some Packer football. We're just getting into training camp, and I just want to watch some football. That's all I want right now. So when we come back from the break, we're going to have Kyle stopping by. We're going to hit the Mellow Yellow Minute. We're going to talk a little NBA, a little NFL. We'll be right back here on Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage, as we're coming back in here on this Wednesday. And hey, this next segment of the show here is brought to you by Nuts Deep 2 in Marshfield. Check out their new menu with fresh flavors, new favorites, and a few surprises you didn't know you needed. Your spot to watch the big game no matter what sport you watch. And I'm telling you, when you go down there, get anything that involves the mac and cheese, the Mac Attack Burger, a cup of that mac and cheese. Go to the kids menu, get the mac and cheese. I'm telling you, it's the best mac and cheese you will ever have. Check it out there at Nuts Deep 2 in Marshfield. So, coming at you next here, we have Kyle from the Chompin' at the Bit podcast, the host of Chompin' at the Bit podcast. You can find him across all the social media platforms out there and anywhere you get podcasts. Just search Chompin' at the Bit. Kyle, how we doing on this Wednesday?
I'm doing well. I cannot complain. It's football be a fan right now. Training camps are going. Everybody's excited.
Oh, man, we're finally getting out of the dog days of summer, Kyle. We're finally going to have things to talk about. College football, the NFL. We have MLB going on right up against the trade deadline. Goodness, I am excited right now. And NBA coming up a little bit later on here. College basketball then. This is the time of year. This is when everything starts rolling, and you got to love it. I'm just worried that my dog, like I was telling Kyle at the break here, we're sitting here, and I was telling him that there's a fly down here, and my dog loves hunting flies. He loves chasing them around. He never catches them, but he always loves chasing them. And I got a Lego Millennium Falcon down here in the studio, and I think the fly is on there because he's staring at it really hardcore right now, and I'm just worried that Han Solo is going to go for a ride to the floor here pretty soon, and it ain't going to be great down here. So if you guys hear boom, that's what's going on over here. So, yeah, there's what's going on right now, Kyle. We got to hit our favorite portion of the show here, and that is the Mellow Yellow Minute, the trivia portion of the show, in honor of my grandpa. He loved Mellow Yellow. He loved trivia. We call it the Mellow Yellow Minute. So we switched it up. Usually Kyle was trying to guess my top 5 things. Now we're even switching up. We're doing Kyle's top 5. So this week, Kyle, he came up with the top 5 players I liked as a kid, which this is interesting because his list, he was giving me a little taste, a little preview. And man, oh man, it sounds like I'm going to have a rough one here. So Kyle, let's do it. Give me the 5 players that are on your list.
All right. So first up, Ken Griffey Jr., Tim Hardaway, Chris Webber, Kevin Garnett, and Pedro Martinez.
This list is rough. You got some Boston guys on there. You got the kid. Okay. Let's start from 5 to 1. That's a traditional way we love to roll this. I'm stuck between 2 of them at 5. I'm going to go Chris Webber at number 5. No. Tim Hardaway at number 5.
Tim Hardaway.
Okay, there we go. There we go. I see. I was in my 2. Okay, so I'm going to put Chris Webber at 4 then.
Nope.
Is it Griffey at 4?
Griffey is not at 4.
Kevin Garnett at 4?
No.
It can't be Pedro Martinez at 4, is it?
It is Pedro.
I was going with the Boston guy at 4. At 4? Okay. So we got Tim Hardaway off the list and Pedro Martinez. I'm going to have to go with Chris Webber at 3. It is not okay. Kevin Garnett at 3. Ken Griffey at 3. Okay, so we got Ken Griffey at 3. Okay. So it's between Garnett and Chris Webber for 1 and 2. Chris Webber has got to be number 2. There we go. I got it. I knew he had to come in sometime, right? He had to come in at some point there. So Kevin Garnett is at number 1. So Kevin Garnett, then Chris Webber, then Griffey, followed by Pedro Martinez, and then Tim Hardaway. I really thought the Boston guys were going to be the top 2. I was banking on Pedro Martinez and Kevin Garnett riding that 1-2 spot. I was where I was at.
I had to keep you off your guard. Look, KG was like when I played basketball, wore his number. I was such a big fan. And Weber was kind of the same way. The only difference with Pedro was, like, when I played baseball, I was an outfielder. Pedro was a pitcher. I could never do what he could do. Griffey was just the coolest baseball player to me. And then Tim Hardaway learned his crossover.
That's what I figured. I figured you were going to throw Rajon Rondo on there because I thought you were just dishing it out there on the basketball floor. That's what I was kind of thinking. It was just you were going to throw Rajon out there.
I like to score a little bit more.
So there we go. There is our mellow yellow minute for the week. So Kyle, speaking of the NBA, you got some NBA players on there. We finally got the news. We finally got it, Kyle. LeBron has decided on the Philadelphia 76ers. Kyle, why where is it? I mean, I've heard a lot of different things, right? It was the roster, and then it was also James Harden was in Cleveland, and he didn't want to go play with James Harden. If it was Darius Garland, he would have went there. Why did LeBron choose the 76ers in your eyes?
So I do think part of it is he wanted to probably get out of the West, which is seen as a tougher path to a title. Obviously being 42 years old, at the very end of his career, I felt like he looked at Miami, Cleveland, and Philly and determined that Philly's roster was more championship ready today. That's with the Jaylen Brown addition, the assumed kind of, continued growth with Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe coming off the rookie year that he had. Now, the biggest question obviously is going to be Embiid's health, whether or not he could. It's hard to think that he could have a healthy season all of a sudden, but I think LeBron looks at it and goes, he can play point forward there because Maxey's really good off the ball. Jaylen Brown has shown he can score off the ball. VJ Edgecombe is at his ceiling, probably going to be a really good two-way player with Embiid, who can also play make as well. I just think LeBron thinks inserting himself there, he could be a guy that gets Philly over the hump. And Philly now, watching the Knicks win it last year, Philly's drought now looks even worse because their drought goes back to the 80s, where the Knicks went back to the 70s. So I that's my thinking. The Harden part with Cleveland is interesting because I do think it would have been, I don't know what the fit would have been like. Him, Donovan Mitchell, Harden all on the court at the same time. That would have been maybe a little odd to see at first. I think he fits probably a little bit better with what Philly has around him.
I mean, you look at the lineup now, and we heard that they had his agents put out the post that they had a plus-minus board, and they were showing everything, and, Cleveland had a minus right next to Darius Garland there, and that was a problem, I think, in his eyes, was that you were coming in, you had James Harden, you had Donovan Mitchell, but the best landing spot, because when you really think about it, he's, like you said, 42. He's chasing a ring now. He's not looking for money. He's looking for a ring. Where's my best opportunity to go win that? Jaylen Brown goes to Philly. You look at that roster, you say, well, I could definitely go try to win a ring there. I mean, Miami, yeah, you had Bam. Yeah, you had Giannis. But outside of those, the supporting cast, you got to look at that. What does the supporting cast look like in there? And, Embiid, if he does stay healthy somehow, some way, finally has that healthy season, that's a pretty good roster right there. A roster that you could see in the Eastern Conference Finals. So, like you were saying there, I think it was the best option for him in the East as of this point right now. Now, if you're the Celtics, you're looking at it like, oh, look what we just did. We just got LeBron back to the East and back to the Sixers. Like, that's great for us, right? What is the direction of the Celtics, Kyle? I mean, you're a big Boston Celtics fan there. What is the direction? Where are they heading right now?
So, what the Celtics are doing is all of these teams are going to realize when they kind of go all in for a title. I mean, if you can do it without getting into the aprons, great. But if not, and this is where the Celtics were, they were in that second apron area. Once you do that, you basically give yourself a 2-year window to win a title before you have to take a step back for a couple of seasons, and then you can go back into it if you want to. So right now, they reached that point where Brown was up for another extension, 2 years to be tacked on. So he would have gotten basically 5 years left on his deal. And the Celtics just didn't see a path where Tatum, Brown taking up almost 3/4 of your cap. Is it feasible enough to really put a contending team around that for the foreseeable future? They have a lot of young players that they want to kind of give an opportunity to kind of build up and step up. So, look, is it a tough offseason? Yeah, but I understand what they're doing. So, Paul George coming in, he has the 1 year, he has the player option, which even if he picks that up, that's still only 2 years with Paul George, as opposed to 5 with Jaylen Brown. Not to say Paul George is a better player, but just financially, this is where we are. And we're seeing other teams do it. The Thunder just traded Dort and some pieces for second-round picks because they wanted some cap relief. So that's what these teams got to deal with. The Spurs might be the next one who has to make some decisions. Denver's another team that's right now currently the only team I believe that's in the second apron. They might have to make a move to try to relieve some of that, and that could mean losing Jamal Murray, who has sort of been declining since the bubble, but he's a big piece of what was their championship era. So it's the new era of the NBA.
Right. I mean, like you said, you're paying two guys. They basically play the same position too. So you're paying two guys those hefty contracts basically at the same position. So you got to be able to spread that wealth out a little bit there. Otherwise, you're going to run into problems down the road. Celtics had to make that tough decision. Who do you want to keep, Tatum or Brown? That's the decision they had to come to. They came to this one here. So, I mean, I don't knock them. It's just, what's the direction, right? And that's what we're wondering with a lot of these teams right now is what's the direction of these teams and where are they heading right now? And you look at now the 76ers are getting up there to be the favorites in that Eastern Conference. You got the Knicks up there too, of course, as the repeat, but it's going to be some heavy favorites there at the top of the Eastern Conference as we head into next season. So, Kyle, let's get out of the NBA. Let's get out of the LeBron talk. Nobody really wants to talk that much about LeBron. Let's talk about this list that I saw on ESPN because we weren't going to talk about this. We were talking about it at the break. I was like, Kyle, we should talk about this list. NFL offseason top impact signings, trades, and draft picks. And I was going through it and I'm reading off some of the names and we are kind of looking at each other like, maybe not. But then I got to number 6 on this list. So the first one on this list makes sense. Myles Garrett going to be one of the most impactful signings here in the offseason. A.J. Brown going to the Patriots there at number 2. I mean, people can debate this out there. Trent McDuffie going to the Rams there. In a trade, Dexter Lawrence traded to the Bengals. We have Trey Hendrickson going to the Ravens. Number 6, Kyler Murray to the Vikings, signed by the Vikings. That comes in ahead of some interesting ones. Tyler Lindenbaum going to the Raiders. Jalen Waddle going to the Broncos there. Mike Evans going to the 49ers, Jalen Phillips going to the Panthers, Jared Verse being traded to the Browns. I mean, I really like Jared Verse, so I guess I might be on the outside looking in on this one, but I don't know. I mean, yes, it's the Browns, so I don't know what the impact's going to be. They're going to stink anyways, but just looking at that list, Kyle, there a little bit, I mean, Kenneth Walker going to the Chiefs comes in at 17. You're talking about a guy who had a really big impact on a team that just won the Super Bowl, MVP, I believe, wasn't he? Yeah, he was Super Bowl MVP. Going to the Chiefs to join up with Patrick Mahomes in what feels like could be the last ride of Travis Kelce and all these guys. I mean, Kyle, how does Kyler Murray come in at number 6 on this list?
So I think part of it is when you look at Minnesota, you have Justin Jefferson, you have Jordan Addison, you have TJ Hawkinson. That is a really good pass catching group. The thing that's been holding back Minnesota for so long has been quarterback play. Darnold gave him the 1 year, but I guess they didn't really necessarily believe in it enough to keep him. He obviously moves to Seattle, wins the Super Bowl. Outside of that, it's been a lot of, coming up short at that position. So where Kyler Murray, I think, is that high on the list for impact, is Kyler Murray's ceiling is probably better than some of the recent quarterbacks that have gone through there. And if Kyler Murray can, achieve his potential with those wide receivers and Hawkinson at tight end, he should be able to have a very productive season. And with Brian Flores once again running that defense, they kind of overperform each year. That's the only thing I could think of. Because like you said, there are some other names on there that you could probably put ahead of him. But I think for the situation that's there in Minnesota, I can understand why Kyler Murray is that high. Now, is he the guy you want to believe in? Sure, but it's hard to kind of look away from what happened in Arizona. Look, Arizona is not a well-run organization by any means, but there's a lot of disappointment from Kyler Murray. He'd have good first half of the seasons and completely tank in the second half. He'd have rough starts to the season, and then it seemed like when they were like out of contention, he'd play better in the second half of the season. He's never put together a full season when you look at him and go, that's the guy they drafted. Well, Arizona drafted number 1 overall. He's just never done that in his career so far.
Right. No, I agree. Kyler Murray, like you said, he's got a really high ceiling, and putting him in that room with those high impact skill position players that they have in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. If he fails now, I mean, it's just kind of, that's it on Kyler Murray right there. Because if you can't figure it out with that skill position group, you're not in the right profession at that point. But I don't know. Kenneth Walker's the one that just drives me nuts on this list. At 17, when you're talking about a Chiefs team who struggled to run the football last year, Kenneth Walker, really good running. I mean, what was he? 33 rushes of 10 or more yards, were 6th in the NFL last season, which just feels like when you add that to a Chiefs team that last season averaged 4.2 yards per carry, and you add in a Kenneth Walker to that, I feel like that's a higher impact guy, especially when you're talking about Patrick Mahomes is back. You're going to have kind of running it back, right? Hopefully get some of your playmakers back on the offensive side of the football there if you are the Chiefs. But all in all, I just feel like the Chiefs, you're talking about, they're always a favorite, right, with Patrick Mahomes out there. You had in one of these kinds of running backs, I just feel like 17 is too low for Kenneth Walker on this list.
Look, I'm assuming whoever did the list probably looks at it as if Patrick Mahomes comes back, the Chiefs will probably look to air the ball out more, because there are some reports that they could be in the market for another wide receiver. So maybe they think that, yes, Kenneth Walker is a very good running back, but the Chiefs system, he might not have the same opportunities as he did in Seattle, where, they probably ran the ball a little bit more with a defensive-minded head coach, with Darnold coming in and him still trying to kind of find some consistency amongst himself. I think Kenneth Walker was dependent on a little bit more than he probably will be in Kansas City. That's probably the only thing I could think of as a reason for that.
Because bringing a big back like that into a system that was struggling last season, I mean, I would expect a higher impact than 17th on this list. Behind guys, I mean, you're talking Jared Verse above him, Jalen Phillips, like I mentioned before. I think Mike Evans, I like that signing by the 49ers. Mike Evans has always been underrated. Very underrated wide receiver there. And I just feel like him going out there with Brock Purdy, some of the other playmakers they have, I like that signing a lot. I just feel like some of these guys are just these lists. I don't know how to explain these lists sometimes, because it's like, what are you looking at, right? What are you really looking at the end of the day? Because you look at the quarterback list and you say, what are you looking at? Are you looking at who won the Super Bowl last year? Are you looking at who led in stats? Are you looking at who beat who? Like, what are you going for here when you do these lists? This is probably another one of those where it's like, what are you really looking at the end of the day there? Is it, the Browns, is Jared Verse that low because it's the Browns and he's going to have an impact, but it's not really going to be a lot because they're going to stink anyways? Like, I don't know. Sometimes these lists just drive me nuts. But anyways, Kyle, we got to hit a break. Kyle's going to stick around. We're going to come back. We're going to hit the MLB standings. We want to do our last buy or sell before the trade deadline coming up next week, Monday. So we're going to get into that. Lots of baseball talk coming at you here when we come back from the break. This is Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. We'll be right back after Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage, as we're coming back in here on this Wednesday. And hey, this next segment, Kyle's sticking around. We're going to talk some MLB. We're going to talk some MLB standings here, trade deadline, everything in between. This next segment is brought to you by Foreman's Hardware. They offer you everything from home essentials to farm supplies, house to farm, grills to drills. Foreman's Hardware has got you covered. Visit today in Loyal, Colby, or Medford, Wisconsin. Tell them I sent you down there. Get 5% off your purchase in Loyal, Colby, or Medford, Wisconsin. If you want to be involved in the show, I'd love to hear from you. 715-990-4654. That is 715-990-4654. I would love to hear your Brewers' dream trade deadline target. Who are you looking at? Is it Skubal? Is it Mason Miller? Is it Byron Buxton for some reason? CJ Abrams? Who are you looking at if you're the Brewers right now? I'd love to hear from you. 715-990-4654. So Kyle's sticking around. Kyle at the break. My dog, I think he caught that fly. I think he caught it. All of a sudden, we hit the break, and all of a sudden, I hear boom, and I was like, whoa, what was that? And he just went full-fledged into the desk. The Millennium Falcon's okay. Don't worry about it. It's okay over here. But I think he was waiting for the commercial break, and then he just went after it right then. And I was like, okay, well, at least you waited until commercial to make all that noise there. So we have a lot to get into here with the MLB. So let's jump right into it, Kyle. MLB standings. We'll hit them first. We'll do a little buy or sell coming up here. We're going to hit this is our last edition of buy or sell before we get to the deadline here on Monday. And then come back next week. We're going to talk about all the trade deadline acquisitions there by all these teams. So Kyle, as we go along through the standings, we're going to hit buy or sell. American League. Let's rattle them off here. We have the American League East right now. We see the Rays out top, followed by the Yankees, Red Sox, Orioles, and then the Blue Jays. So, Kyle, Rays, Yankees, they're for sure buyers. I mean, we might as well just knock those two out of the park right there. Red Sox, Orioles. What do you got real quick? Buy or sell for the Red Sox and the Orioles?
Red Sox buy, Orioles sell.
I like that one. I think the Orioles got to blow it up. I think they have to. It's just they had this really young core come out. It worked out right away, and then it just fell apart. And now it's just, well, got to accept it and move on. I think that's what they got to do. Red Sox for sure. They got to buy here because they're at the top. Are they at the top of the wild card race right now?
They're second wild card.
Second wild card behind the Yankees there. So, I mean, you're right behind the Yankees. Yep. Everyone else in the American League, who even knows with the American League right now? Because they all stink at this point here. So the wild card race is really tight, even if you're at 500 or below 500 at this point. So American League Central, this is where we get into some interesting divisions there in the American League. So we see the White Sox out top, followed by the Guardians, and then the Twins below 500, but still only 3 games back of first place. The Detroit Tigers, and they're 5.5 back, and they are 6 games below 500 there. 6 games below 500. And then the Royals coming in last place right there. So we're going to assume White Sox buyers coming to the deadline here. Guardians, Twins, and Tigers. The Royals are going to be sellers. I think the Royals will sell.
Yeah.
Let's go with Guardians, Twins, Tigers. What do you got for me, Kyle?
I think of the Guardians you buy, because it seems like they kind of do this, and then second half they're going to run. Twins, I could see them do a little buy and sell. I think the Tigers probably sell. They may not sell the piece in Skubal, but I think they do some selling around them.
Yeah, we've talked about this with the Skubal thing. You know, do you want to make money for attendance the rest of the season, or do you want to prepare for the future? Because Skubal's going to hit free agency. The Tigers they're going to try to be in the market, but Dodgers, Yankees, all these teams are going to swoop in, unless if we do have baseball next year and we agree on a salary cap and a floor, then potentially Skubal comes back into some price ranges. But at this point, I'm not going to hold my breath on a salary cap or anything like that happening, because I'm preparing myself for a lockout next year. So if you're the Tigers, I mean, you might as well. I don't know. That might the lockout for next year might affect teams to thinking, why not go all in? If you're an American League team who's in a wild card, why not go all in? It also might say, why not sell? It's going to be a really weird deadline. This is a really weird deadline that we're heading towards, especially because the American League everybody's basically still in the race here in that wild card outside of like 3 teams. Everybody else is still realistically in it. the West. Kyle, the West is, they stink. The West just stinks. All right.
Yeah.
You have the Rangers out top. They have a negative 18. I know run differential only means so much, but they have a negative 18 run differential, and they're leading the West right now. The Astros are second in the West, and they have a negative 45 run differential. The only positive run differential is the third place team in the West, the Mariners, who have a really good pitching staff. Their offense cannot score runs. They're sitting at a +8 run differential right now. The Athletics, and then we see the Angels coming in. So I don't know. Kyle, I mean, I'm not even going to say there's a for sure buyer in here. Kyle, Rangers, Astros, Mariners. I think the Athletics, the Angels will be sellers. So let's look at those top three. Are they buyers or sellers when it comes to deadline? Somebody's got to win the West. I mean, somebody has to, sadly.
Right. I feel like they probably all try to buy. Maybe nothing too fancy or too high priced, but you have to think all three of them make some type of move. Like like you said, it's a weird market. It's kind of a weird time with all the uncertainty of next season. But if you can win the division, you might as well go for it. You get yourself a better playoff positioning than necessarily going through the wild card. So yeah, those three teams should buy.
The Astros, we've talked about this a million times, never feel like they're out of any race ever.
Right.
They could be 10 games back right now. They would still, for some reason, buy. But I am interested to see if they do listen to Yordan Alvarez trade talks. I wonder if they'll listen to him, because there's going to be a lot. I mean, everybody's going to be interested in Yordan Alvarez. The question is, who's going to give that up? Because the Dodgers, the Dodgers would want to be in that market, but they also want to be in the Skubal market. So the question is, which one do they try to go heavier into? Do they go for the batter? Do they go for the pitcher? And then it's a question, okay, the Brewers, so are they sitting there saying, well, we are struggling with our DH right now. They're never going to bench Christian Yelich, but let's just hypothetical here. They're saying, well, we could really use that power bat and that really high average out on our team right now to compete with the Dodgers if they get Skubal. So I'm really interested to see if they listen to some of them out there. I think they will. I think they'll listen. Just a matter of something jumps at them there. They're going to look for MLB ready talent, because I don't see the Astros wanting to rebuild. I see them as a team who want to stay afloat and stay steady, because the West is down. I don't know what you'd call it. I mean, goodness, that's the new AL Central right there. We always talked about the AL Central. It's like one team was going to get in the playoffs, even though they stink. Now it's the AL West is turning into that. So let's flip over to the National League right now. In the East, we have the Braves out top. The Braves have been putting on a little bit of a run there. The Phillies caught up to them, and the Braves kind of pushed that lead back out, but the Phillies have been struggling as of late. So that's definitely helped there. The Braves are 6-4 in the last 10, Phillies 3-7. So we see the Phillies in second place there, followed by the Nationals, the Marlins. The darn Marlins, I tell you, Kyle, they slipped off on us. They slipped off. They were 2-8 in their last 10. They have won 2 in a row, so that's exciting. But they're 2-8 in their last 10. They're now at 500, so I think that's going to change. We talked about it last week. That's why we wanted to do another buy or sell, is that there are going to be a lot of teams. There's going to be a lot of movement here in this week here. And then the Mets coming in the last spot. So I think the Mets will be sellers. I don't think there's much to salvage there. 17 and a half games back there of first place. The weird ones, the Braves and Phillies are for sure buyers, right? The weird ones are going to be the Nationals, and I think we're already getting our answer with the Nationals, and then the Marlins. The Nationals sound like sellers to me, just because they're listening on James Wood, they're listening on CJ Abrams, so just feel like sellers at this point. And then the Marlins are weird ones. Kyle, what do you think? Do the Nationals end up being sellers or buyers? And then what about the Marlins?
So I think the Nationals are going to probably sell some offense to buy pitching. That's what it seems like they're going to do. Their pitching staff has not been great, so that's like the thing that's been holding them back. They can score runs, but they're also giving up a lot. So I think they're going to do a little of both. Sell a piece to get a good arm. The Marlins, I think with kind of the recent skid, they probably should be sellers. But don't sell your young pieces or anything like that. But I think they'll be a slight seller.
Okay. Okay. Well, I was just looking at the Nationals because you said they can score runs, but they give up a lot of runs. They've scored 586 runs on the season. That is the most in Major League Baseball,
Yeah.
but have given up 557.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. Because at one point the Pirates they're at 556 right now. And they're kind of in the same boat. We're going to talk about the
Hmm.
Central here in a second, but they're sitting at 556 for runs scored and 515 for runs allowed. So you're seeing where pitching staffs are affecting these teams mightily because they have really
Yep.
good offenses. They just can't find a way to hold teams down. And the Nationals are one of those teams. It just feels crazy
Hmm.
because James Wood and thinking of his name, CJ Abrams, such huge pieces of that too.
Yeah.
So to have to flip them, we'll see what they do. Would they flip only one of them? If they end up flipping both of them, we'll see what happens there. But going to be interesting there to see who's in on those markets. I'm going to guess most teams will be in on James Wood, especially James Wood, because I mean, what is he, 6'6" out in right field? I mean, that is a big time outfielder. And then also, I mean, the bat is just really good for him there. And
Yep.
CJ Abrams, too. Not a lot of teams, though. I've seen a lot of reports saying they don't view him as a shortstop. They view him as an outfielder, which interests me. Because then I was thinking about the Brewers, and I talked about this earlier. Why does CJ Abrams not make sense for the Brewers? Because they have enough infielders to go around. I mean,
Hmm.
throughout the minor league system. He doesn't make sense because he's got a couple years left on the contract. But if he slots into the outfield, it makes sense. So
Yep.
let's see what teams do with that one there. Looking at the Central, Kyle. Brewers out top, followed by the Cubs. Then we see the Pirates, Cardinals, and the Reds. We're starting to see our separation, which is what we always see here, it feels like, in the
Mhm.
NL Central, where you have the Cubs and Brewers, who always seem to be in that race there, and then the Cardinals, Pirates, and Reds. As of late with the Cardinals, but the Pirates and Reds usually start out pretty good and then kind of fall off the table there. So we know our for sure buyers, the Brewers and Cubs. Pirates, Cardinals, Reds. I feel like the Reds are sellers. Cardinals, that's a weird one. Could be neutral. And what do you think about the Pirates, Kyle? What do we got? Buy or sell there? Pirates, Cardinals. You can throw the Reds in there, but I feel like they're sellers.
I feel like the Pirates will probably work the phones to try to buy. I think the Cardinals, I wouldn't be surprised if they were, like, if they sold off a piece or two. Because I do think I've heard Herrera, the catcher, is kind of, getting some interest. So that could be a decision that they either kind of stand pat or maybe move a Herrera guy for maybe a young arm or something like that. Because a lot of these teams are just looking anywhere they can to get a bat. So if Herrera's a guy that can be had, I could see them making a move there. But they probably won't be too active.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Not too active there. It's an interesting one. The Pirates, I mean, they have a really good offense. It's just, the bullpen is just terrible. So is there enough bullpen arms out there? Do they go after a Mason Miller? Do they try to pursue that avenue there? And what do they got to give up to do it? Is it going to be too much? Is it going to blow up the team to just try to do something like that? We'll wait and see what kind of happens there. In the West, Kyle, we have the Dodgers. Yeah. Tires. I mean, that's pretty simple one there. The Diamondbacks, followed by the Padres, who are sitting at 500 now, the Giants, and the Rockies. So we can assume the Giants and Rockies will be sellers when it comes to the deadline. They're going to try to get off of, I mean, if you're the Giants, you're trying to get out from, if you can get out from underneath the Devers contract. I feel like they'll try to get out from underneath of that. Maybe Willie Adames, Matt Chapman, guys like that. I did see, is it Casey Schmidt? Is that the guy I'm thinking of there for the Giants? He got injured last night there against the Brewers. So I don't know what that's going to do with his trade ability if teams are going to be looking at him. But Kyle, buy or sell, Diamondbacks, Padres, what do you think?
I think the Padres probably are a seller. I think this experiment with this group has run its course. They might as well just move a piece or two. The Diamondbacks, I feel like they should buy, but if you're a Diamondbacks team, it's like, once again, next season may not happen. Are you really going to win a World Series this year? Maybe you move a guy like, I don't know, Ketel Marte. Maybe some team comes calling with a really good, like, young offer to go for him, and you just decide like, hey, why not? Well, let's position ourselves for after negotiations. If there is a season next year, let's try to hit the ground running once the league picks back up.
Yeah, no, I agree. I could definitely see the Diamondbacks sitting neutral, trying to stay out of things and just like,
Yeah.
we're good enough to maybe make a wild card, but we don't feel like we can do enough to win a World Series. So let's just sit kind of in this spot where we can put together a good baseball team. What did Mark Ananasio say? A summer of fun and entertainment there. Like that's kind of what the motto they're going for in this season. Like I could definitely see some of these teams going for that and just try not to trade away too many of their good prospects or maybe guys they have control of for the next couple of years, trying to avoid that. Maybe moving on from some veteran pieces, right? Maybe you got a guy in your starting pitching staff that's a little aging, or maybe a guy in your bullpen, maybe moving on from a guy like that, but avoiding the young core pieces from these teams. I can see that in a lot of different places. So, Kyle, I want to hit the top trade deadline candidates. I am going to rattle off names to you, Kyle, and I want you to tell me if you believe they will be traded. Okay. So I'm going to rattle off the names, and you're going to tell me if you believe they're going to be traded. Number one guy. This is the number one guy on everybody's mind right now because the Dodgers say they have a package already prepared for if he hits the market, and you feel like the Brewers would be in on this guy. A lot of different teams. Tariq Skubal. Do you believe he gets traded at this deadline?
I'm going to say yes.
Yes. All right. All right. According to ESPN, his chance of being traded is 60%. I thought that was high. I was honestly going to go with like 30%.
Yeah.
I did not see it, but I guess his best fits every single contending team. That's what it says on there. Byron Buxton from the Minnesota Twins, Kyle. Do you believe he gets traded?
I feel like that name's always out there.
Every year it feels like people are talking about him getting traded.
I'll say yes. Everybody's looking for a right-handed bat. I'll say yes.
I like that because 10%. They gave him a 10% odds of being traded at the deadline. Interesting. Okay. Joe Ryan from the Twins. Now, this could be interesting because maybe you try to put a package together big enough that you could get Joe Ryan and Byron Buxton off the Twins. Interesting. Kyle, Joe Ryan, what do you think?
I'll say no. I feel like they could have moved him last year and didn't. For some reason, I think a team will get close and he still won't go. So I say no.
They've been holding on to him. They've been holding on real tough to him right now. They just feel like the Twins always feel like they're going to compete and then they just drop off. Mm-hmm. Mason Miller, another big name on the market there for the Padres. What do you think? Does he get moved on from 3 years of control after 2026?
I think he's gone. Yeah, he's gone.
100%. Because I feel like 3 years of control is enticing to any team out there, whether that be the Yankees or the Brewers or the Dodgers. It doesn't matter. Everybody's going to be interested in Mason Miller if the Padres make him available. And I do agree. I think they will. Shea Langoliers, the catcher there for the Athletics, 2 years of control after 2026. It feels like the Athletics should hold on to him, but they won't because it's the Athletics. So, Kyle, what do you think? Does he get traded?
I think they keep him. 2 years of control. By that point, you're basically looking to move to Vegas. Why not keep him for that? So I think they keep him.
That's my thinking with the Athletics. Why not build up this young core so when you move to Vegas, you have a pretty good core of players that you can just throw out there and just maybe make a magical run in your first year in Vegas. Hey, if he doesn't get moved, the catching market's really small. Mm-hmm. It'd be okay because the Brewers have Gary Sanchez, and that might be a way that they can maybe try to get some pieces is by trading a guy like Gary. I know it's not a huge piece to add, but it's a thought. Just a thought I was having. Angels. We have the Angels with Zach Neto, the shortstop there for the Angels. He seems like he's been there for a while. 3 more years of control after 2026.
I'm going to say he's gone.
Yeah, 100%. I believe he's gone too. Red Sox, Braves, Blue Jays, Twins, the Yankees, all teams that could use a shortstop. Yeah. I see him as being gone. This one's interesting because this feels like a guy that he came up with the Astros, Jeremy Pena, shortstop there. Feels like a guy who you could have built around maybe a core piece, but only 1 more year of control after 2026.
I'll say gone.
I think so. I think gone too. All right, Kyle. I got two more on this list that interest me. CJ Abrams. This is a guy who comes up in a lot of rumors right now. 2 more years of control after 2026.
I'd say, I'll say Abrams is gone. I said they keep Wood.
This one interests me. Luis Arias from the Giants having a big time year. Second baseman there having a big time year. I believe he can play a little bit of first base, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he can play a little bit of first base. Yep. So he's got some versatility. What do you think, Arias? Is he there or is he gone?
I think he's gone.
Definitely gone. I agree with that one. I'm just looking through this list because I wanted to find another interesting one. Francisco Lindor 5 more years after 2026 at
Yeah.
$32 million a year. There's only about a handful of teams I could see taking a shot on that one.
Mm-hmm.
The Yankees being one of them.
Yep.
That'd be about, I mean, man, who else? They list the best fits as the Blue Jays, Yankees, Red Sox, and Braves. If I'm a Red Sox fan, I don't want that contract. If I'm a Braves fan, maybe. But I don't know.
With the Blue Jays, you might take a chance at him.
Blue Jays might be interesting because they need to rebuild that core up there. You have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. right now. Like, you need to build that core fast. Well, you got him around. That could be an interesting one. And the Yankees, I feel like the Yankees are going to be in this market.
Yeah, because what helps Lindor is he's got switch hitting ability. So if you're looking for a right-handed bat, he could fill that need for you. So I think he's gone. I think the Mets have to do it.
I agree. Like, they need to move out from some of these contracts here. They put together this roster, and it was on paper looked really good, but it has not looked really good on the field. So I agree with you there. One last one. Josh Hader, just because this is an interesting one. Brewer fans, I'd love to see Josh Hader back in Milwaukee. That's for darn sure. But Josh Hader, do you feel 2 more years of control after 2026, $19 million per year? Do you feel like a team makes a deal for the Astros for Josh Hader?
I can see teams calling. I'm going to say he stays.
It's just a price tag. When I look at the price tag of 19 mil, I just don't know. I mean, I would love for the Brewers to make that trade, like to make that phone call, make that trade, get him up to Milwaukee. Maybe you throw in an Isaac Paredes for a power hitter. Like I love, or Yordan Alvarez and Josh Hader. Come on. I mean, that'd be awesome, but it ain't going to happen, right? It's never going to happen, but that'd be awesome. But that 19 mil just kind of steers me. Like right when I saw it, I was like, oh, Josh Hader, that'd be an intro. Nah, 19 mil a year after that. I don't like that one too much there. So there we go. Let's see what happens, Kyle. I'm excited. Trade deadline coming up on Monday there. We're going to see. We've seen some movement, right, already, but I'm really interested to see as this week wraps up. Because Matt Arnold kind of spoke on it, Brewers GM there kind of spoke on it, and he said, it's interesting to hear how many teams feel like they're still in it. And some teams are saying, well, I don't know if we're in it, but we're not going to, have these talks yet. And then you have others who are like, we're open for business. It's going to be really interesting to see here as we get to the weekend, what teams are open for business. I'm excited to see it. So Kyle, you let the people know where to find you out there across social media.
Yeah. So go ahead on Podbean, YouTube, Facebook, Chomping at the Bit, easiest way to find me.
Make sure you guys check out his stuff over there. He's got great stuff. He's going to be covering the deadline. Of course, he's got the NBA talk for you. When the World Cup was going on, Kyle's got it. He's got all that stuff over there at Chomping at the Bit. So make sure you check it out there. But as always, Kyle, thank you for stopping by here tonight on the show. When we come back from the break, we're going to wrap it up for the day. We'll be right back here on Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage, as we're wrapping it up here on this Wednesday. And hey, this last little portion is brought to you by Clemmy Exterior Cleaning. Is your home, barn, or driveway looking weather-worn? Call Clemmy Exterior Cleaning for professional soft washing and pressure washing done safely and the right way. I told you before, I always tell you guys, check out Facebook. Whenever you want to check out a business, check out Facebook. When they do the before and after pictures, just wow. I mean, they do barn fans, the before and after there. You get the dust on them. They come in, clean them off, look like brand new. Your siding, your driveway, everything in between. Call Clemmy Exterior Cleaning for all your cleaning needs. So, Brewers back in action on a Friday. Off day tomorrow, coming back on Friday there. They have the Angels over the weekend. Trade deadline coming up on Monday. I'm excited and nervous and excited. Like, I'm excited. I feel like the Brewers will make a move, but I'm also nervous that they're going to make that move that makes us go, why? I just got that feeling. Matt Arnold, very unpredictable. I can't wait. Trade deadline coming up on Monday. We'll talk about it. We'll talk more about the trade deadline on Saturday there here on the show, but on next Wednesday's show, of course, we're going to recap the whole thing. So with that, that's about all we have for the day. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Wednesday and the rest of your week. But until we talk again on Saturday at 10, see ya.